A strong winter storm that battered Northern California with strong winds and torrential rains, knocked out power, uprooted trees, and visited homes and businesses along the coast in Santa Cruz, continuing its journey through the region Thursday. The coastal city of Capitola has suffered significant flooding damage from Wednesday's bomb hurricane, as heavy rains continue to batter Santa Cruz County. Photos posted to the Santa Cruz County Twitter account show the Capitola Pier basically split in, with the beach completely occupied by the flood waters. The streets of Capitola Village, the city's top tourist attraction, were completely damaged by the sea and air waves that pushed against the banks of the Sokol River in photos and videos posted by local residents. The low-lying coastal area of Santa Cruz County is now under threat from tidal surges, the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office announced in a press release Thursday morning. Due to the large waves and high tides along the coastline, there is a threat to the safety of these residents, the Sheriff's Office wrote in a press release. If you can safely evacuate, please do so immediately. Residents who cannot evacuate are advised to take shelter in places and stay away from open-facing windows. A coastal flood warning is in effect until 4 p.m. Thursday and a high surfing warning in effect through Friday 3 a.m. Up to 22-foot waves are foreseen, as well as the potential for more flooding, low-lying properties including homes. Businesses and some critical infrastructure will be submerged, the National Weather Service said. Some shoreline erosion will occur. This came 2 days after the county declared a local disaster due to storm damage, including significant debris in waterways, landslides and debris flows, road sweeping and road collapse, as well as a district-wide power outage. Areas in the Santa Cruz Mountains are still receiving rain, but the peak of these storms has passed. As expected late Wednesday, the total rainfall for this storm fell short of the worrying forecasts made earlier in the week. Santa Cruz saw about 1.2 inches of rain, Watsonville 1.02 inches, and the mountains received only about 5 inches, according to National Weather Service Bay Area meteorologist Warren Blyer. The most important factor in last night's storms were winds, which reached speeds of up to 55 miles per hour at Ben Lomond and 52 miles per hour near Natural Bridges. Mount Amunham, a peak of the Santa Cruz Mountains just above the Santa Clara County line, saw winds reaching 81 miles per hour. Incredibly, winds in Marin County peaked at 101 miles per hour. In Watsonville, city spokeswoman Michelle Pulido said the city was helping residents in the southeastern part of the city return to their homes as the evacuation order had been lifted. Unlike the New Year's Eve storm, Pulido said the area had not experienced any flooding. However, the Pajaro River watershed remains under close surveillance because the Uvas and Pacheco reservoirs upstream along the Pajaro River flooded last night, according to Matthew Machado, the district's director of public works. The peak of the storm's impact on the South Pajaro River is not expected until 9 p.m. Thursday evening. The number of district roads that were closed in an emergency reached 23 at 13.30. As it did late Wednesday, the shutdowns were mostly in the county's Bonnie Doon, Boulder Creek, and Lompoco counties, with additional closures along East Cliff Drive. Many of the closures were caused by downed trees and power lines, as well as coastal flooding from the strong storm surge. Although this storm has largely died down, 2 more will hit Santa Cruz County between Thursday and Monday, Blyer said. This storm is expected to be wetter, but with calmer winds. The next storm is expected to arrive on Saturday and last into Sunday evening, dropping to 2 inches in Santa Cruz and up to 5 inches in the mountains. A second storm will arrive after the first, and rain in the county from Sunday evening into Monday evening. Santa Cruz will see up to 3 inches of rain, and up to 8 inches in the mountains. As Santa Cruz County experiences some of the worst hurricane strings in memory, our newsroom team of 10 people remain at the top of the story. We also welcome Fernando Haro Garcia, of the Long Beach Post, who assisted with our hurricane coverage. We will continue to update Storm Central throughout the day. Here, we'll share the latest news on the impact of the hurricane, road closures, floods, power outages and more. We will contact the emergency center in the area to provide you with the latest and most accurate information about what is happening around us, and do all the preparation you can. Check out our storm watching guide. We've rounded up the best time-tested advice on how to prepare and how to react to whatever a hurricane might bring. The storm, which intensified from pre-dawn showers to heavy rain, high winds and, in some places, flash flood warnings, sent Californians from the Northern California coast to Santa Barbara scrambling for shelter, and left hundreds of thousands without power. A succession of similar weather systems is expected to pound the state for the next several days. Usually, rainfall amounts like those expected this week would not have a significant effect. But the rain over the past weekend saturated the ground across much of California. Forecasters said, leaving it like a wet sponge and making it more susceptible to flooding and rapid runoff. Parched by drought for the past 3 years and scorched by wildfires, the state is spotted with vast scars that are especially vulnerable to landslides. Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency throughout California on Wednesday in order to more quickly marshal a storm response, and the authorities in several communities issued evacuation orders. Nancy Ward, the new director of the governor's Office of Emergency Services, warned of flooding, mudslides and power outages. We anticipate that this may be one of the most challenging and impactful series of storms to touch down in California in the last 5 years. In Northern California, several parks were closed, and conservationists said they were monitoring fire-damaged redwoods in the Santa Cruz Mountains because the strong wind gusts could topple trees. In San Francisco, city officials scrambled to secure enough sandbags for residents. In flood-prone San Mateo County, many students were asked to head home early on Wednesday and not return to school on Thursday. And in East Oakland, where some 300 residents have been temporarily housed in motels since the storm last weekend, an Oakland City Councilwoman, Treva Reed, worked with the Red Cross to turn a local community center into an additional 75-bed shelter. This storm has been upon us since New Year's Eve, and we have hundreds of residents in this district that we are working to support that are displaced, Ms. Reed said. It's really all hands on deck. Flood warnings were in place north of San Francisco, and flood watches were in effect across Southern California. More than 200,000 utility customers were without power in California as of late Wednesday, according to poweroutage.us, which tracks outages. Don't let your guard down, the National Weather Service warned. Residents were ordered to leave their homes in some areas, including parts of Santa Cruz County, as well as Santa Barbara County, where officials warned of flooding, mud and debris flow in parts of the burn scars left by wildfires as far back as 5 years ago. That was, almost to the day, when mud and debris exposed and loosened by the raging Thomas Fire was lashed by rain, causing it to slide down hillsides, engulfing homes, and killing more than 20 people in Montecito. In the agricultural town of Watsonville near Monterey Bay, southeast of Santa Cruz, Andy Gonzalez, 69, was one of many under a mandatory evacuation order on Wednesday afternoon. But he said he didn't plan to leave his home. It had already been flooded, just a few days ago. New Year's Eve was fine until the evening, he said. Then, at about 8 p.m., the water started rising, and the sludgy waters seeped into his house. Mr. Gonzalez said that elsewhere in his neighborhood, home to mostly seniors, he had seen people in canoes rescuing residents. As a fresh round of rain approached California on Wednesday, he helped fortify the neighborhood with sandbags as his relatives headed for a hotel in Sonoma County. Evacuation warnings were issued for residents living in flood-prone communities such as Ganneville near the Russian River, which was expected to swell beyond its banks by Monday. At a neighborhood in the Bay Area city of Richmond, local officials worked on Wednesday to head off a landslide. Mayor Tom Burt said that a resident had warned him on Tuesday about some scarp and rocks falling from a hill, which was saturated and visibly cracked after days of rain. Nearby residents were evacuated, and on Wednesday morning contractors in hazmat suits worked to position a tarp on the hill to divert the rain to a nearby pond. Hopefully they can get that plastic up there and keep enough water out of the hill to keep the slide from getting worse, Mr. Burt said. We're doing all we can do. They were the third and fourth deaths to be connected to the storm system. On New Year's Day, fire crews recovered a body from a submerged vehicle near Highway 99. And in Santa Cruz, authorities said a 72-year-old resident had been killed by a fallen tree. In the Mission District of San Francisco, doors of apartment buildings, coffee shops and restaurants were blocked by sandbags as residents awaited the storm. Several streets in the low-lying neighborhood already experienced flooding over the weekend. But some stores, including King's Refrigeration and Appliances, opened for business anyway. Refrigerators that had been displayed on the sidewalk there began to float away in the pooling water on Saturday, said Jose Gomez, whose father owns the shop. We had to hold them down so they didn't get taken away in the current, he said. The storm is expected to bring up to 4 inches of rain and winds of up to 40 miles an hour to California's inland valleys, and gusts of 60 to 80 miles per hour in the coastal hills, according to the Weather Service. In the mountains, heavy snow is expected. Water officials said on Tuesday that the statewide snowpack was at 174% of the average for the date, a silver lining to the storm pummeling drought-stricken California. The snowpack in the Sierra Nevada mountain range supplies about 30% of the state's water, according to the Department of Water Resources. The snowcaps act as crucial water storage until they melt during drier, warmer months, sending fresh water into the state's rivers and reservoirs. And the heavy rain and snow have brought a measure of relief to California's agricultural industry, the nation's largest. This is really a godsend, just to see these storms lining up and hitting California dead on, said Don Cameron, whose Terra Nova Ranch grows produce on 8,500 acres in the southern San Joaquin Valley. Still, water experts have cautioned that no matter how much precipitation there is in the coming days, residents should still plan to conserve. They have pointed to the fact that in 2021, significant December snowfall gave way to the driest January, February, and March on record, leaving Californians to navigate increasingly dire warnings and water use restrictions throughout the summer.